Do you ever go through something in your life and you say, how come this is happening to me? Oh God, why am I going through this? You're not alone. Joseph, when he was in prison, he wanted to get out. And he was really, he wasn't a prisoner of circumstance. He was a prisoner of his own prophetic destiny. Jesus was washing Peter's feet, and Peter said, no, don't do this. And Jesus said, what I'm doing now you do not understand, but afterward you shall understand it. Folks, today's broadcast will change your life. We're going to be on pages 23 and 24 of this particular module of your Ultimate Life Strategy. And you want to get the Ultimate Life Strategy, go to level10living.com. Use the promo code podcast and get a special 10% off. By the way, this is an excellent gift you want to give to a spouse or to someone else you want to connect me with these series. I do executive coaching and all kinds of business leadership coaching, political coaching. Get a hold of this Level 10 Living equipment, this equipping material, because it's about how you can discover the path God has for you in the midst of all the chaos right now. Your greatest days are right in front of you. And level10living.com, your Ultimate Life Strategy. Get all 4 of these, actually, because we're going to be bouncing around between our tools. Otherwise, you're going to be lost in the sauce while I'm reading these pages. See you in a minute. You know what time it is? It's the best time of year. It's the time when we actually focus on God and on what it is that you're created to do. The last broadcast we did got me going. I hope you watch it. If you didn't, you got to go see the previous one because we're setting this up right now. God is putting some Pathfinders down. We found out what Pathfinders are. They're these Air Force night jet planes that would come through and find out where to create a landing path, and they drop flares down, and they kind of like illuminate a runway in the wilderness so that planes and cargo could come in. We're Pathfinders, and what we're doing is we're helping to find a path for you. And I'm going to give you a couple of keys. We're going to fly through a couple of them here real fast on how to be 100% alive in the path God has for you, because in the midst of shaking, your ultimate life strategy doesn't change. Let me give you an example of what I mean. We do it over and over again in the books. We do it over again in the teaching. It's a unique revelation. I really got it from Derek Prince, but I caught it from Derek Prince. And that is that the Apostle Paul said he wanted to have a prosperous journey to Rome. And he tells his people, pray for me in Rome that I'll have a prosperous journey. And how does he get there? Through a shipwreck. See, I don't care what happens in the world around you and me as much as I care about how we get into God, because God's factored in the rebellion, the chaos, the lawlessness. God's factored in the world and history around you and still put you on earth at this time to do something. Level10living.com is where you go to get your ultimate life strategy. Use the podcast code, because I want to mentor you in how to walk in what you're called to do, regardless of what happens around you. You know, Mercedes and Carl, I just want to hit this once briefly and not obsess on it, because we do 5 days a week. We do news, commentary, I do Flashpoint, which is really a prophetic analysis, current events, and trying to extract from it what Christians need to know about what's going on, what's really happening, or maybe even how to pray and prepare for the future. But what God called you to do, my friend, you have to fight to get into clarity on the calling of God. Because if Satan can get you out of the call of God and out of the purpose of God, he's got you. Go to page 23, and we're going to start with the second paragraph. In the last days, the voice of the Lord is going to speak through the voice of his body. I believe God has spoken to me. He's telling me lately. He's saying, Lance, I want you to start to build my church. And I thought, I'm the last person to do that, Lord. But the Lord says, like Zerubbabel, he wants a house. He wants a house that's living stones made of people that are living together in authentic community, inviting the Holy Spirit into the midst of them, where God is leading them to do what he's calling them to do. We are the hands and feet of the body of Jesus Christ. I don't think most churches are hands and feet. I think they're gathering processing centers. I think we're supposed to be actually moving out there. So I want you to read this. The last days, the voice of the Lord is going to speak through the voice of his body. Why do I bring this up now in this lesson 5 on the clashing of swords? Because much of your life is a preparation. Catch this. This is worth underlining. Much of your life is a preparation to solve a problem that may not exist yet. So sometimes I was talking to a CEO today who had a major board meeting. And he said, I'm just feeling like I've got this major decision. I have a definite no on something. But God's given me the no. And I have some hunch as to why, but I don't know what to share with the other guys as to why it is that really I'm going in this direction. And I know his reasons, and his reasons are sound. And the verse came to me when Jesus was at the Last Supper. He said to Peter while he was washing his feet, what I'm doing now you don't understand, but afterward you shall. There are times when you're going through something and you don't understand why, but afterward you will. The Apostle Paul said, we've been afflicted in ways where I look for my supernatural deliverance, but I realize that everything I've gone through was for your sake, so that I could walk you through it. I could help you through what you're going through because I've been there. So with my trusty Coach Carl here, Coach Carl is on the program, and the ever-effervescent Mercedes is on the program. We're going to be looking at right now how God in history proves that he takes his people through processes that prepare them for the future they are prophetically destined to star in, and their preparation does what all preparation does. Gets you ready for exhibition. So, because much of your life is preparation to solve a problem that doesn't exist yet, in the book of Genesis, our star of this principle is Joseph. He was trained in Egypt for a future economic problem that he was uniquely qualified to solve. The word unique is important. Many of you suffer the wallflower syndrome. I'm talking to some of you, especially some of you that are at home and saying, well, at this stage of my life, what do I have to offer? What have I got? Everyone has a unique factor. Unique factor is the distinguishing characteristic of what Jesus put in you that makes you different than other people. What did Jesus give you that separates you from other people? And this training here, Your Ultimate Life Strategy, level10living.com. Get it, because this helps you find your unique factor, what makes you different. In Joseph's case, his unique factor was, what do we know about Joseph that promoted him all throughout his life? What was weird about Joseph?
A lot of things weird with Joseph. What do you want?
But he was summoned by Pharaoh because he had one unique gift. What was it?
And dream interpretation.
And he got that because the butler and the baker.
And the candlestick maker.
And the candlestick maker had dreams, right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. But he's got an interesting story, though, too, because as you're talking some of the stuff I think about, like modern day Christianity, I feel like there's this undertone that if there's adversity or if it's a difficult situation, it means it's not God. And when you talk about Joseph, right, sold into slavery by his own brothers after saying, hey, I had this really cool dream. Again, dreams, right? Unique factor. You're all bowing down to me and offering me all your wheat. Isn't that crazy? It's like dad's favorite. And they're like, oh, yeah, that is really wild. And then they sell him into slavery. He ends up in Potiphar's house, serves faithfully in Potiphar's house. The wife comes on to him, accuses him of rape. He gets put in prison, right? I mean, more adversity, didn't do anything wrong, false accusation against him. Now he's in prison. He interprets the dreams for the two guys, the baker and the butler. And he says, listen, I'll do it, but will you just remember me? And literally they forget about him. And the guy, who's the good guy, who makes it through?
It's the butler.
The butler makes it through. And then the king's got these dreams. Like, I got some wild dreams about cows coming out of the river, 7 healthy ones, 7 emaciated ones. What do you think it means? They're like, oh, there's this guy in jail who interpreted my dream. And then that's how he finds himself in front of Pharaoh.
I love that. And so the truth of the matter is, the providence of God and the favor of God was really working around Joseph's dreams and his ability, curiously enough, to interpret other people's dreams. And Carl, this goes to an important idea, which is that our gifts are really not meant for us. So if you have a healing ministry, there's only so many sicknesses you can get excited about getting healed yourself. If you have words of knowledge, really they're for other people. If you have gifts of healing, it's for those that are sick. When Jesus says it's more blessed to give than receive, he's setting up a proverb, a principle. And that is that you're more actualized, you grow more, you experience more, and you enjoy more when you're the throughput, the one who's the channel God's using, than the recipient of the blessing. So how does that principle work, Carl, in terms of when you're when you're the person who is using your gifts, talents, and abilities in a way that impacts the world around you, it actually makes you come most alive.
I'm not really sure how to respond to that entirely, in part because there are certain gifts that we have, like a gift of leadership, for instance. You cannot lead others unless you lead yourself, flat out. So to say that you have to use your gift in service to others before you get the benefit of the gifts, and I might be misunderstanding what you're saying.
No. I'm saying that what you have been given isn't all about you. That from God's paradigm.
Gotcha.
If wealth is given to you, it's like I work with some guys that have money, and it's like, look at it, the world's getting so screwed up by people that don't know what to do with their money, and they're investing it in goofy messianic causes that are making the world worse.
Yeah, more messy than messianic.
Yeah, so I guess a real simpler way to put it is the gifts of God are meant to flow through you, not stop with you.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And even in the monomyth template with Joseph Campbell, you'll find that the vast majority of heroes aren't singular hero entities or the singular hero archetype. A lot of them actually join together with others. That's why we don't just see Iron Man, we see the Avengers. We don't just see Batman, we see the Justice League. It's not just one individual, it's actually a group of individuals who end up persevering through the struggle in order to bring that boon back to society or to their communities. So yes, it's never meant to just be for you. Whatever your gift is, whatever your talent is.
I love what you're saying, and that may be a stretch for some folks that aren't used to the Justice League and the Avengers.
Okay, was there one disciple? How about that? Let's use the Bible then.
Well, no. I think the important thing is you have to go outside the Bible to get the picture clear. Sometimes you only see the Bible when you go outside of it, and then you go back and look at it and go, oh, is that what that is? So to your point, I'm reading James Hunter, and I love James Davison Hunter, even though I disagree with his conclusions sometimes. But I totally got educated by him in several ways, and one of them was these. In Christianity, young Christians especially are always taught about the great man, great woman model. And I'd read a book about George Mueller or D.L. Moody or Charles Finney or John Wesley. And the thinking is history is shaped by the man or the woman who's totally sold out to God to do what God wants them to do.
Martin Luther, great
Martin
example.
Luther.
Yeah.
William Booth, another one.
Right.
Well, Hunter says that's not true. That all sociologic movements of impact, whether they're in technology or in fashion or in religion or in spirit, is a catalytic personality and a network working around them.
Yeah.
That there was no Martin Luther. It was Martin Luther, and it was the princes in Germany, and it was the Wartburg Castle royalty that abducted him when he was going to be arrested. That Wilberforce wasn't Wilberforce. It was him and the Clapham group. The point is that every individual finds and secures their destiny. When you find out what it is you're all about, you attract to yourself the people that resonate with that frequency. If you want to be New Age,
right.
You want to be Christian, when you're clear on what you're called to do, other people that want to be in the journey with you find you easier. When you're singing every song of every genre, you don't have a style. But when you're bluegrass, or when you're opera or classical, or when you're raw rock, you stand out. There's a specificity about what your message is. I want you to really look at the level10living.com curriculum. Go there now and grab hold of it, because you have got to find your unique, what are you all about? Because if you're going to be sucked into the vortex of what everybody else is all about, you're literally, it's like, I remember Brendan Burchard said once about email. He said he doesn't do email because email is everyone else's plan for my life. And when he put it that way, I stopped reading my email, much to my detriment, because now I get email from people that keep asking me, didn't you read my email? But it's like, no, I don't, because my eye was open. How much email was a hook to invite me to do something, educate me about something, consider this, consider that. And every time I opened it, I was obligated to respond to someone else's plan for my life. And I realized, man, this is not helpful.
You couldn't just do the Steve Bannon one-word response, honored.
Yeah.
Or
100%.
thanks. Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Agreed.
Agree. Yeah, just the one word reply.
Yeah, I should have mastered that.
I want to go back though to the story of Joseph though, because something I really like that you said earlier that's in the book here, it says you don't know this, you might have been created to solve a problem that doesn't exist yet. And what I like about that is in the story of Joseph, and what I really think Christians are called to do and be in the earth is heaven's problem solver. And so he's confronted with this. He's really confronted with the prophetic vision for his life at an early age. He sees all of his brothers bowing down and giving him their wheat. And yet the fulfillment of that word comes with such adversity and trial. But then when he gets to the point of Pharaoh and him interpreting Pharaoh's dream with the 7 years of plenty and then the 7 years of famine, not only does he interpret the dream, but then Pharaoh puts him in charge of stewarding that process. And so it's also pulling off of Joseph's management abilities like he had in Potiphar's house. So it's just an interesting story and really what he's called to do, which is solve the problem in the nation and the land at that time, that he had the gift and the gift, right? His gift made room for him. But not only was it just like that's what the intercessor prophetic guy said, great, but he was actually called to manage it and steward it, which is a different skill set, So anyways, I just thought it was interesting. I wanted to hear your comments on that, Lance, just throwing it out there.
All right, well, this is why I love this material, because it's the only place you can go where you have this conversation. In the Bible, motivational gifts are really God's personality profile. You can go do your Enneagram and DISC and Myers-Briggs and other stuff. But it's in Romans you find the motivational gifts where it talks about the graces of God that are given to you that shape your personality in terms of one aspect of your uniqueness is, are you mercy motivated? If you're mercy motivated, then you're kind of like you have a hyper empathy mechanism that can really care about and feel what other people feel. It leads to other natural gifts and talents and abilities which come out of that. If you're profit motivated, you see things in black and white. You're clear about outcomes. You're not ambiguous about what is right and wrong. And you see things in terms of for and against. So therefore, your battle stands ready if you're a prophet. If you're a mercy, you're the exact opposite. You're trying to find the compassionate, empathetic resolution. Neither one is right or wrong, but both together create a complete picture. Both together create some interesting complications. A married couple could be a prophet and a mercy married together. What I'm saying is motivational gifts is part of what we teach that describes how you're wired. If you're a natural leader, you see problems and take initiative to change things, then there's a primary and secondary gift. If you're someone like me, I'm an exhorter. Exhorter gifts are people that are imaginative, creative, and talented in being able to come up with concepts and ideas in unique ways that can edify, strengthen, enlighten, or instruct other people. It's an interesting kind of gift. What I'm trying to say to you is, your supernatural gifts, the ability to have a word of wisdom, a word of knowledge, tongues interpretation, gifts of faith, I wish we really cultivated these more because they're dormant until activated. And even on our own team, in our own life, I'm realizing maybe we need to go ask the Lord to activate these more. Gifts of faith. Wouldn't you like to have that where God could slip into you? The ability to just automatically be at peace in a terribly big situation because God gives you a calm certainty of the outcome's going to be all right. On my team, Mercedes operates with a gift of faith. When we've done our biggest events, like the Trump Hotel, when I would look at as a younger organization, put $100,000 on a credit card and secure the rooms, and if we don't use them, we're out $100,000. Well, how many people are going to put $100,000 or $150,000 in a contract and say, well, what happens if I'm sick, or what happens if we have to cancel? Well, that's the chance you take. It's on the card. We're buying a block of rooms. Then you have to sell a program where people are going to be paying X number of dollars to buy those rooms to come to Washington. Well, she had such confidence about it. I looked at her eyes and I could see this isn't, because I know her, this is a gift of faith. And I could see she has faith for the outcome. So I didn't have to exercise a whole lot of anxiety about the hows and whats. I never done that before. Her gift of faith held that part. I had to exercise my faith for bringing in Mario Murillo, getting the material, and it was a stretch for me, but I did my part. I never did a program like that before. It was Carl's first time, I think, getting on a stage, out in the hallway, bringing people into that level 10, get ready, and then you brought them in.
I don't think it was my first time.
It wasn't your
it's
first
fine.
time?
It's fine. It wasn't very memorable, so it's okay.
All right. Cut out that reference
That's
there.
fine.
Carl gets no credit at all for this unique story.
Good.
But what I want you to catch is this. To your point, your natural talents are a gift from God. Joseph's administrative gifts. But if you want to go a little deeper, they're actually connected to your motivational gifts. Joseph was a servant ruler. So his two gifts were servant ruler. People say he was a prophet. Yeah, and it's weird, right? Because he had the gift of interpreting dreams. But you don't really see him using that a whole lot. He has one when he's young to help him see his destiny. And then he gets one for, there's the butler and the baker, and he gets one for Pharaoh. But it's other people's dreams, not his own dreams. And it's one unique factor. But he has an administrative gifting, and he has a gifting for managing. And he has a personality that's inclined towards loyalty. That's what we would call the servant gifting in the motivational gifts. And it's characteristic of a ruler gift. He takes charge and he gets results. What I'm saying is God has hardwired. You need to go to level10.com, your ultimate life strategy, because all these pages, they hurtle at you from hundreds of angles, the discovery process. And look, man, we do this show constantly. I'm telling you, people need to realize this. We never get more than a half a paragraph down. Mm-hmm. And the programs, I got 5 minutes left now, and I haven't even got to the bottom of page 23.
This was literally one paragraph off of that page.
One paragraph, and we're on.
This is the fourth episode we've done on page 23.
What is that?
This is the fourth episode we've done on page 23, and we are halfway through the second paragraph.
That's so funny. I have a question, though. This is kind of a random thought, though. But, it's interesting. Joseph, is he even able to interpret his own dream when he's telling it to his brothers? Or is he recounting it to his brothers, not necessarily knowing what the interpretation is?
Excellent point.
And that, yeah, right. And so
prophets, and this sort of really discourage and encourage you at the same time. Prophets often get it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So this
that doesn't mean they didn't hear God. The error isn't on what was said. The error is the interpretation.
I was thinking, or that was such a painful misinterpretation and a carelessness of really saying what he saw and not understanding how it was going to affect those around him, that maybe he really, this is like, I'm adding like The Chosen would add to embellish the story to make it more interesting. But maybe he in that pit, he was thinking, I really should be more careful about what I interpret and really go to the Lord to say, what does this mean? Maybe he built a whole skill set around dream interpretation.
I'm just saying. But he had a supernatural ability. The point is, when he is in the moment of destiny, and he's about to be summoned by God to interpret Pharaoh's dream, what is he doing? He's trying to get out of Egypt and get home, which means he never understood the interpretation of his own dream of being exalted.
True.
He, in his own brain, thought his brothers sold him out, and he's got to get out of this place. And he's like a shoulder shrug. Wow. I don't get why God's doing this to me. I don't know why God's doing. Why is God, Lord? I'm not gonna backslide. I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna respect you and honor you. I see your hand is on me. Your blessing is on me. You're protecting me and preserving me. But for the life of me, get me out of this place and back to my family,
and
please.
That's why he was such a good manager, because he had been managing his own expectations for all those decades.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Think
profound.
of the decades, though. Because we talk about prophetic words.
Right.
And, you just some of the stuff you've shared with me that you have in your life early on. And we have this expectation that it's a now. It's like right now. I should be running for office now. And I was like, no, what if it's decades in between what God spoke to you, what the fulfillment of that looks like? Right. Well, I think about that with you too. I was going to say, don't you have a word about Zerubbabel? Didn't you get 2 words?
Oh, yeah, I got 2 words on Zerubbabel at the
back.
same time. We only got 1 minute and 13 seconds. I got to tell you guys a funny story, though, real quick, about my wife. So I'm watching The Chosen. You guys watch The Chosen series? It's so great. And I can't believe some of my friends watch it. Thought, oh, I don't like it. Well, you stick with it. It's great. Yikes. You're going to love it. Trust me. So I'm watching it. Oh, what? Are you waving your head? You nodding your head?
I like it. I like it. It's hard for me to watch because I sit there and go, that's not in the Bible. That's not in the Bible. That didn't happen.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so
but I like it.
I introduced Annabelle to the Chosen last year. It's real funny because I'm one of those guys that can start on the 3rd or 4th or 5th episode, and I pick up in the middle of the movie, then I'll go back and watch the first half of the movie. My wife can't do that. I don't know if it's women. I don't want to be a gender guy.
It's not
here.
women.
But she doesn't. It's the story has to have continuity because it's all about relationships and the characters. Anyway, so she's watching. I showed her like episode 5 or 6, and then I went back to like episode 2 and 3 to show her, the one she missed. And I remember in episode 5, the reason I did it is that way is because in episode 5 she goes, "What is Jesus doing? Why is he?" No, it was in episode 3. When I got back to episode 3, she goes, "Why is Jesus ignoring Matthew? Doesn't he? Why is Matthew not talking to Jesus? He's acting like he doesn't even know him." I go, honey, this is before they met, before he joins Jesus. Yeah, but Jesus is acting like he doesn't even know him. Of course he's acting like he doesn't know him. Episode 5 is when Jesus calls him out. She goes, "Well, it's very confusing to me. How come people are treating each other like this when they were friends?" I go, "You don't understand. You saw the end. Now I'm taking you to the beginning." She goes, "Well, you totally messed me up now because I don't know what I'm looking at."
Bless her heart, she can't watch a Tarantino film to save her life.
No, totally confusing. So then I realized something. I realized that prophetically, why does God not show you more, just enough for you to be in purpose is what he wants. It's not about the outcome. We treat God almost, I would dare say, like the occult practitioners treat their deities, where they want to know the future for the purpose of satisfying an unholy interest in what to do, what number to play at the lottery and what horse is going to win. When the Holy Ghost comes in, Paul took a young lady that had the divination in her that could predict the future for her gamblers to make money, and he cast the spirit out because that's not the business God's in. God's into revealing that which is necessary for you to obey him in your purpose. And it's never meant to be a substitute for faith, because by faith we please God, which means you're always going to have an element of potential anxiety about doing the thing. If you think prophecy is meant to eradicate from you your exercise of faith, you're mistaken. Prophecy is there to get you in alignment with your assigned purpose.
Amen. I was going to say, I really think the prophetic is designed to give hope. So the Bible talks about, I desire that all would prophesy, that you would exhort and you would edify. But what I think it does is it casts hope for an alternate outcome, an alternate reality. And then when we look at the faith verse, which is I think one of the things I'm called to talk on in my life, but faith is a substance of things hoped for. Faith is action. By faith, Noah prepared. By faith, Abraham offered. They're all action oriented when we talk about faith. But we're moving towards, the action is towards the hope of an alternate reality, an alternate outcome. That's why hopium, false hope, eating the popcorn, watching the movie, that's actually hope in an outcome that doesn't even exist, which affects how you act. It affects your faith, what you're doing. So that's why I just want to say to you that's why I think the power of the prophetic is it should cast a vision for you for a hope of an alternate reality, a different America. If I can't envision, and I can't say I can envision a Christian America, and I can envision, a House and a Senate that's conservative, I'm not going to then partner my faith-oriented action of running for RNC chair or running for Congress to change the outcome, to do the tangible work of changing things so that I reach that new outcome. Does that make sense?
No, that's absolutely right. And sometimes I think the obedience factor is missed, and that is that Noah preached the entire time he built. Now, it would have been easy for him to just not preach and just build, could have got it done faster, because nobody evidently listened to him. But it was part of the protocol that God had and that everyone had to hear in order to be responsible for their choices. So sometimes what you're doing is you're not changing the situation. You're obeying God in the way you go about fulfilling your assignment, because it makes other people responsible for the choices that they're making. And God has a reason that you don't understand for doing the course that you're doing. But obedience is the non-optional part. Otherwise, we have apathetic Christians. I'll tell you what they do. They don't vote because it's or because it's either God's going to do something.
God's going to carry me through it. Faith without works is dead, folks. Yes, faith itself is an action. It is an action-oriented word. But if you don't do the work in association with the faith that you have for the outcome, It's bupkis.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I read an article recently, and it was all about this, the problem. It was Eric Metaxas in his book on Bonhoeffer, it's a letter to American churches, warning them that we're in the Bonhoeffer stage, where totalitarian power was rising up in Germany with Hitler, and the church was divided on how to respond. 1/3 realized they needed to raise their voices and they needed to conspire together to block the government from becoming what it was, which was a Nazi killing machine. 1/3 refused to get involved with the debate because they wanted to avoid the conflict, and the other third became state churches with Nazi swastikas in the pulpits. And so it was 13,000 churches could have made the difference in Germany to stop Hitler if they had spoken and unified with one voice, because the churches still had the ear of the people. But as the church became confused with, the reason why Christian nationalism is fought is for this reason right here. Trump represents a force that can actually unify Christians around protecting the nation. Whereas they're freaking out over politics and the flag being combined. This is what the devil's afraid of, because the counterfeit is what they want, which is the political will redefine what America is and drape it in its own interpretation and persecute the Christians that try to stop them. The reason I bring it up is because it's faith without works is dead. Carl, the problem that the German church had was Luther. And because Luther taught them that all authority was from God, and that you submit to the authority as unto the Lord, and that you didn't have all you had to do was believe God, and that would be all you had to do to get saved. And by him neglecting the fact that, but there's certain things you do along with that faith that catalyze that faith so that it's alive. And if you don't do those things, you're dead. And so what he was dealing with was the misunderstanding of Luther's teaching, because it went to another extreme, and it's in the church in America today. And I'm going on for like 5 minutes on that because I want you guys to catch the relevance of this. I'll give you 3 examples. You have to be like Elisha, who when the mantle fell from Elijah, his boss, he took it, lifeless, limp piece of cloth, and he swung the mantle and hit the waters of the Jordan, and the waters parted. His activation of the dormant potential of the supernatural was what caused the manifestation. You must activate the dormant potential of the supernatural in your life by swinging the mantle. I'll give you another example, because the Bible always has to have 2 or 3 to be scriptural. Samson's getting tied up by the Philistines. He's bound. He's tied. They're wrapping him with ropes. And then the Bible says that the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson, and his corresponding action, he shook himself. And when he would shake himself, the anointing got activated on his physical body, and he broke all the ropes, and they freaked out and fled. And this he did not once or twice, but like 3 times. Samson had to shake himself to activate the dormant potential of the supernatural. The Apostle Paul tells to Timothy, stir up the gift of God that is in thee by the putting on of my hands and with the hands of the presbytery. In other words, you stir up the dormant supernatural potential of God in your life. You shake yourself. You swing the mantle. I've given you 3 verses that says, faith is dormant unless you activate it and put it to work. And putting it to work means that you have to actually step out into the unknown. And that's why prophecy is like a light in a dark place. It doesn't illuminate every detail of the journey. It's there to show you the direction you're moving in and to give you a clear enough path to be able to stay on it. Amen. Does that make sense, folks? Level10living.com. We're barely getting to page 26. Use podcast code podcast.
And save 10%.
That's very creative. That's a very creative.
Podcast.
That's like Ernest Angley. I said, Ernest Angley has a singing group. What's it called? He calls it the Singing Men. I said, I know how they got that name. One day he looked at me and said, well, bring out those singing men. Okay, it's Singing Men. Your unique factor, my friends. I want to talk to you. I want to read you something from Toy Story about design is the fundamental essence of the soul. Steve Jobs. Oh, let me just read this to you. This is from a chapter called The Clashing of... Oh, wait, I guess we got to stop.
Yeah, I would stop.
We have to stop right. I'm so sorry.
Let's open the next episode.
I want to go into Steve Jobs and the revelation God gave me about that guy's genius. His gift was to see the design. He was a designer, and he saw the design of an elegant new way of getting information, and it produced the Apple revolution. Next episode, we're going to talk about how you can discover the unique essence of your design and what it's called to do.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.